Hey friends, Scott Clem here. I'm a commissioner for Campbell County, and today I wanted to come and talk to you about a couple of property tax tools that are really, really handy. Now, you can find both of these on the internet. I'm going to show you exactly where and what kind of information you can get from these tools. And I think you'll find that it's really, really incredible. When we think of property taxes, we think of, well, what are they, right? And how much do I pay? And where do these funds go? There's all sorts of these different questions. And I bet if someone asked you just, right now, like, how much money do you pay in property taxes and where do those funds go? I think every single one of us would be a little bit hard pressed to say exactly how much we pay and exactly where those dollars go down to the very cents. And that's what these property tax tools do. So, without any further delay here, let me take you to this first one here. If you type in the Wyoming Taxpayers Association, you'll come up to this web page right here. Let me put myself on the screen real quick. You can click on that link and it will take you to their homepage. And if you, this isn't exactly their homepage, but if you go up top here to where it says the Cowboy Family, this is where you will find the Cowboy Family tool. And it's really, really awesome. Again, the Wyoming Taxpayers Association it's not a division of the state. Okay, it's not a state department. This is its own third-party entity. It's really a watchdog group for taxpayers, and they do a really great job. So they developed this tool, the Cowboy Family, and if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see you have lots of different fields. You can read through the instructions. You can actually even click on some of these reports. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through this tool step by step so you can see how to use it, and not only that, but what kind of information you can get from it. Let's go back in, put myself out of the screen so you can see this fully. You'll notice here, and I'll go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit, maybe a little too much. Here we go. This, by the way, this tool can be used in any of Wyoming's counties, which is really, really incredible. The one thing that I'll say about this tool, however, is that it does not incorporate the 25% reduction in property taxes that the state legislature uh, did this last year. Okay, so that's one little caveat. So what you're going to see on here, as far as the numbers, particularly the numbers that you pay in, it's going to be a little bit more than what is actually what you actually pay in reality, and we'll see the difference with the other tool because that other tool does incorporate that 25%. First of all, you put your county. You can put your total household income. In Campbell County, I think the average household income around here is around $150,000. That's considering two adults. And here I've got a family of four, two school-aged kids. They go to Campbell County School District, and the average home in Campbell County, I believe, is around $350,000. So we're just using the averages here. Of course, you can put in specific numbers that are particular to you, or you can do averages yourself, however you want to do that. Um, it also asks for, how many vehicles that you have. Put two vehicles here, and it'll ask you how many miles that you drive and the miles per gallon. Now, if you don't know those numbers exactly, that's okay. This tool will still work for you, and it doesn't skew the data too much. Again, the more particular you can be, the more particular your results will be as well. So anyway, once you get all those inputs done, you hit submit. And this is where the tool comes up with some results. So the first thing you're going to see is the total state taxes paid. Now, this is going to tell you all of the taxes that you pay all in for the state of Wyoming, not only for your county, and not only for your city or town that you might live in, but also for the state as well. Now, a little bit of a caveat. When we think of property taxes don't actually go to fund state government. They fund schools, they fund local governments, they fund things like your community college, or if you have a hospital district or a cemetery district, we call those special districts. It funds things like that. State government doesn't rely at all on property taxes. They have a different tax formula. They get most of their taxes from sales taxes or excise taxes, as we might call them, and investment income that really comes from minerals, and severance taxes that also comes from minerals. But as you can see here, the total property tax for this $350,000 home for a family of four that make $150,000 a year, They pay a total tax liability, according to this data, of around $2,100, right? So that's their property tax. Their sales and use taxes that they pay, it's estimated here, is around $1,146. The fuel tax and vehicle registration fees that they pay is $747. And then they have an excise tax. Again, that excise tax can be, another term for that is sales tax. But in particular, here we're talking about things like cigarette taxes or alcohol taxes. Those are also considered excise taxes. Here you got $37.12. And then your total taxes paid. So what this family of four, what they pay all in for, one complete year in taxes to their state at all of the different governing levels is around $4,035. So that's pretty good information. And it's really, really great to know as far as how much taxes are you really paying. You and I should know that. On the flip side, we should also know, what are we getting for these tax dollars? Is it really worth it? And that's a valid question to ask. And I think what you're going to see here is you're going to be a little bit shocked and startled, and we'll talk about the reason why. So, what do the total services, what does this family of four get? Well, in K-12, that's public education. Remember, they got 2 school-age kids. They pay around $30,000, or they get around $30,000. That's around $15,000 per kid. And statewide, that metric is actually even a little bit higher. But again, we're talking about just Campbell County. The state services that they receive is around $14,352.66. And that pays for all of your state government. That pays for your courts, for instance. That pays for game and fish. That pays for your, Wyoming Department of Transportation, so your roads and things like that. It pays for the governor's office. It pays for the legislature. That it pays for all of state government, right? And those services, you add them all up as far as what you would get as a dollar amount, and it's $14,000 thereabouts. Special districts. This is, again, these could be things like hospital districts, your community college, your cemetery district. And here they're estimating that the services, the monetary amount that they get back in services is $19,496.88. What about your city or town? Well, here it's estimated that your city or town, in this case, it would be like Gillette, that they receive $7,454.24 back in services. And again, those pays for your municipal court. It pays for your roads and bridges and things like that. It pays for, excuse me, public works. I mean, it pays for everything regarding the city, your parks, all that kind of stuff. And then your county services, which is $6,767.92. And again, when you're talking about county services, you're talking to a county commissioner here. You're talking about things like road and bridge again. You're talking about things like the recreation center, the airport. In Campbell County, you have the Camplex as well. These are also funds that go towards the fire department and the sheriff's department and the jail and the county libraries. So all of those services, you put a dollar amount to them, and that's what this family of four, that's what they're getting back for their taxes that they paid in. So they pay in around $4,000 statewide, all in, and they get back $78,045.70 back in services. And that equates to, for every $1 that they pay in taxes, they get $19.34 in services back. So that's what you call a pretty good deal. As a percent of their household income, they pay 2.69% in taxes. So again, not a bad deal. The difference between what they pay in and then what they get out of that as far as services is $74,010.24. Now that is a huge number. And you might be asking yourself, like, how in the world does that work? And who in the world is paying the rest of this? Like, because someone's got to pay for it. It's got to come from somewhere. If I'm getting these, this monetary amount in services back, then who is paying for that? And that's a really good question. And so I want to show you this. This is also from the Wyoming Taxpayers Association. That's a little report that you can find. And here in particular, you can see Campbell County. And what you'll notice about Campbell County is notice something called the assessed valuation. Now, we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. Assessed valuation is is a number from which it helps us to not derive mill levies, but mill levies are then assessed against that number, and then we get a total, taxes out of that. I'll talk about that here in a second. Um, but the interesting thing is, when you talk about your assessed valuation for your home, right? And we'll talk about that figure more in the next tool. If you add up all of those assessed valuations for all of the residential properties in Campbell County, it turns out to be, it's going to be around $307 million. This is the total property tax levy, but it's around that same amount. Let's see if I can find that real quick. Hold on. I thought I had something from the Department of Revenue up earlier. I do. So check this out. This is Campbell. Let's go up a little bit, and we're looking at total residential land and improvement for personal property, and here it is. It's about $303 million, right? And that $303 million is part of the grand total of assessed valuation. You notice if you take the agriculture land, residential, total commercial, and industrial combined, all of those combined is about $846 million. But Campbell County's assessed valuation is more than that. It's actually $4.8 billion. So where is this other $4 billion coming from that's contributing to this tax base? Well, it's coming from minerals, as you can see here. In Campbell County, the total mineral tax yield, as far as property taxes on minerals, it pays for 79% of everything is collected in Campbell County, and residential only makes up about 6%. And that's not true in other counties. Let me just show you one other county for grins and giggles. This one is Teton County, who has the second highest assessed valuation in all of the state. It's $3.8 billion. But most of that $3.8 billion comes from residential. In fact, you can see they have no mineral taxes on here at all. They only have really three sources. You got commercial tax, you got state industrial tax, and then you got residential. And so most of their property tax comes from residential. I mean, the whole pipe, more in proportion than minerals does in Campbell County. So that's pretty huge. That's pretty significant. So let's go back over to this second tool then, which I think is really awesome. You can find this on our Campbell County government website. Let me show you how you can get there. You type in Campbell County government, and you'll come up to the web page. And if you go over to click on your government, go to departments, click on departments, and what you're looking for is the county assessor's office. Here's the county assessor's office. You could just click on that link, or we'll open the little plus sign. We're going to go all the way down, and we're going to find this thing called the Property Tax Transparency Calculator. Now, this is really cool. This was actually developed by an economist that works for the Wyoming Business Council, a guy named Connor Christensen. I got to work with him a little bit, about 10 weeks, fairly recently, and we worked together, and he really did develop this tool. And Campbell County is really kind of the launching place where we got to launch this tool for the people. This is all about transparency. It's all about informing people, educating people. How much do they pay in property taxes, and what do they get back? So he developed this tool. It's live in Campbell County. I believe he's going to try to get that adopted in other counties and other places as well. But for right now, anyway, it's in Campbell County, and it's linked to our webpage. So check it out. It's really, really awesome. And what you're going to find here is this little page right here. It's going to give you some instructions. It's really easy to follow. First thing is it's going to ask you a couple things. One is the tax district, and again, this is Campbell County only, that you are. And if you don't know what that is, if you click on this little link right there, and I already have it pulled up, you're going to come to this map. And what you can do is you can scroll in, and we'll go to about right there, and you can see that most of Gillette proper is going to be 150. If you go down to right, for instance, you're either going to be 147, 185, or the broader area of 100 if you're just in the county. All right, so let's go back over to this. And what's cool about this tool as well is you can actually scroll in, and you can find, where am I looking at? That's Campbell County High School over there. You can actually find your, What am I looking for? That's Hillcrest. Yeah, I'm in the right spot. I was looking for around the Catholic Church because I already had a property kind of that I picked out earlier. Let's see here. But you can find your exact, there's John Paul right there. You can find your exact property and you can click on it. And it'll tell you who owns the property. You know, you click on it, and if you're the owner, your name will come up. Well, there's this one right here. This is over by John Paul Catholic School, the Catholic Church. And if I click on this property right here, you can see that this is owned by HUD. So it's state owned at the moment, but it's pretty cool. You can click on it, and if you go down, it'll actually tell you the actual value, the fair market value of the home. And in this case, it's around $350,000, and that's the figure we're going to use. This one says $347,000. But we're going to go back over to this page. We're going to click on District 150, which we did, and we're going to type in a market value of $350,000, just like we did with the other property tax tool. This one's going to give us some different figures. And by the way, let me kind of go through this. If you weren't sure as far as how are your property taxes even tabulated, it's a lot easier than you think. What happens is you start off with the market value of your home. In other words, what an average person would pay for your home. And your county assessor is the one who assesses your home and assesses it at a fair market value. Then what happens is this fair market value is then there's a multiplier, and it's 9.5%. In other words, you're going to pay taxes not on the full market value of your home. You're going to pay taxes on 9.5% of the full value of your home, right? And that is what we call the assessed value. So here on this screen, you can see that the assessed value is $33,250. And again, if we were to add up all of these assessed values right here, and if we did it just for residential, then what we would end up finding is all of the residential areas in Campbell County, all of those assessed values combined is $303 million. And again, Campbell County's assessed valuation is a whole lot bigger than that. It's $4.8 billion, which means about $4 billion comes from minerals. It comes from oil, it comes from gas, it comes from coal, and that's what really pays the bills. Let's go back over to the tool. But remember, the state legislature also gave a 25% tax break off of that assessed valuation. So if we reduce this by 25%, we come up to a number right here of $24,937.50. This is, for all intents and purposes, your assessed valuation that you pay taxes on. And you're going to pay a certain amount of mills. In Campbell County, for this district, it's 70.835 mills. And by the way, I mean, this is why you have all of those different tax districts, because those mill levies are going to be different in each and every one of those tax districts. So what this tool does is it dials in your exact mill levy, your exact market value. Remember, you can just copy and paste that from that map. And you can see exactly how much you pay as far as taxes, what your assessed valuation is, not only the regular assessed valuation under normal circumstances, but also if you take 25% of that and what you would get here. 70 mils is kind of like saying that you're going to take this assessed valuation of $24,900 and you're going to times it by, say, 7%. 1 mil is 1,000th of a dollar. So if we were to, again, put this into a figure, it would be 7.0835%. That's essentially what that is. And you can see the estimated tax on this property, the annual tax is $1,766.45. Now remember, if we were to go back over to that other tool said the annual tax was $2,104.43. So what's the difference? A big part of that difference is going to be that 25% tax break that you were getting, that the legislature put in place. So it's lowering the tax liability here by around, $300 or so. Okay, so where do your property taxes go? This is what's really awesome about this tool, because it shows you exactly who is getting what. And you can see that on the chart on the left, but you can also see this on the pie graph on the chart. So you can see Out of all of the different districts that get taxes, that rely on property taxes, who gets the most and what they're surviving off of. So of the amount that you pay, right? If this was your home, you would pay the Campbell County Cemetery $19.20 per year, right? They get just shy of a 3/4 of a mil on as far as the property taxes. Campbell County Hospital, it gets 3 mils, so you would pay them annually for $74.81 per year. Campbell County not Campbell County High School, Campbell County School District. You can see here they get 31 mils, and it's $773.06. But there's more to it than that, because you have the state school foundation program right here that gets 12 mils. That's an additional $300. There's also BOCES. BOCES is the Board of Cooperative Education Services. So, for instance, if you got a high schooler and they are taking some college classes, this money right here is helping them to pay for those college classes without actually having to pay for anything. They're getting those services essentially for free while they're in high school. Helps pay for that. And then you can also see we got a rec mill. This is Campbell County School District. It's a recreation mill. The recreation mill pays for things like the new aquatic center that we have. And so you can see a breakdown to the very pennies of where your tax dollars go and who gets what. And if you were to take this entire amount, you would find out that about 72%, 70% of that entire pie, 72% of that goes towards education services. The bulk of it goes toward K through 12, and then just a little bit goes over to the college as well. But 72% total. And then the remaining 28%, that gets split up to those other special districts, to the city, to the county. So you can see exactly where all of those things go. So it's really, really cool, really incredible, I think anyway. And you can know exactly what you are paying for, right? Where your tax dollars go. Hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was a help to you. If it was, let me know. And until then, we'll see you next time.